Hello, I'm gonna be sharing my birth story today. I was a little hesitant to share this story just because I don't want to scare anybody. I did have a pretty traumatizing labor and delivery. I just don't want to scare other people that are like either pregnant or going to be pregnant, because I know when I was pregnant, like anything that I would feel, like I would literally search up on Google and be like, what does this mean? Don't do that, because then you just freak yourself out. I wanted to do this because when I was going through it, I felt so alone, and then I decided to look up stories on YouTube to see if anybody else was going through anything similar, and I only found a few people because what I went through was rare. This was my first pregnancy, so I did not know what to expect. It was something completely new to me, but I am currently 3 months postpartum and I'm doing great. Also, no, I do not have a lazy eye. I have a chalazion in my eye. I've had it for months, I think like 5 months now. I've been like doing hot compresses and all of that just to avoid getting surgery. I heard surgery is like, it's like the last thing you should resort to just because they can always come back. So I'm also on antibiotics, but it's just taking forever. So if you have had one of these, please let me know what you have done to get rid of it. Give me some tips because I need them. Yeah, I'm just gonna get into the story. If it is all jumbled, I am so sorry. There's bits and pieces that are a little foggy to me just because it was pretty crazy and I was literally not there. My pregnancy was pretty easy on me. I feel like I didn't have morning sickness. I felt nauseous here and there, like it would be to random foods and stuff, but like I didn't even have like any crazy symptoms, so I felt pretty lucky that it was a pretty easy pregnancy. So my expected due date was February 26th and I actually had her February 25th. Still so crazy. I can't believe that I'm a mom. Like sometimes I'm like, dang, I cannot believe I am a mom, like a whole mom. But it's amazing and I've always wanted to be a mom. I knew I always wanted kids. She's 3 months now and she is seriously the cutest baby. She is so smart, it's crazy. I had her on a Friday, so it was February the 25th on a Friday. 2 weeks before that, I was at work and I started getting contractions. I literally thought I was gonna have her like soon. And my mom was like, yeah, you need to go home, like you shouldn't be working. So I went home and I was having contractions here and there. They weren't like super painful contractions, and so they stopped by the end of that day. And a week later, which would be a week before having her, I actually started getting contractions and they actually started getting stronger. So that would be Monday, like the 21st or 20th. It was something like that. They started progressively getting worse throughout the day, and I actually have this, it's an app on my phone that tracks your contractions, how far apart your contractions are. It's this app right here, and they were pretty far apart. They were probably like 30 minutes apart. You know, by the end of the night it was pretty bad, and I was like, I think I need to go to the hospital because it almost feels like I'm gonna have this baby. So, you know, being my first pregnancy, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what they were supposed to feel like. So then I was like, okay, I think I should probably go to the hospital, because we called the nurse and she was like, yeah, you should probably come in so that we could check you. So I went in, they checked me, and I was not dilated at all. I had to go home, but before that I actually told them that it was so painful that if I could like take anything to help with the contractions. They actually gave me a shot of morphine so that I can relax and, you know, be pain-free for like a few hours. And it only lasted about 5 hours, so I was able to get some sleep that night. The next day, which was a Tuesday, they started getting even more painful. So I had to go back to the hospital later that night and they checked me. I was actually 2 centimeters dilated, but they were like, you're not dilated enough to actually get checked in. So they sent me back home, but I needed another shot of morphine. So I went home, and then again, the morphine only lasted 5 hours, but it was something because my body really needed the rest. I tried everything to pretty much speed things up. I was drinking raspberry leaf tea. And then Wednesday was probably the day that I felt the contractions the worst. I could not stand them. I was on the phone with my mom and I was like, I literally cannot stand these contractions. Like, it is super painful. So I was actually bouncing on our medicine ball to speed up the process because I was like, girl, you need to come now because I'm in way too much pain. I was also timing my contractions and they were at this point 15 minutes apart. So we were already thinking about going to the hospital, but I decided to bounce on this medicine ball for a few hours, and then I tried taking a bath. That did not help me. I felt like even more uncomfortable, which I thought it would help me because usually, you know, baths, like, they recommend that to kind of like relax your body and it helps with the pain. But for me, I felt like it was worse. So I was trying to bear the pain, and then my mom and my sister decided to come over, and my sister massaged me. My mom and my sister were just trying to help me through the process, and they made me some tea. You know, I was thinking about going to the hospital because my husband was like, if you're in that much pain, like, we have to go. But then I didn't want to get to the hospital and then have them say, you know, like, oh, you're not dilated enough, like, you need to go back home. But at this point, I felt like I had to have been like at least 4 centimeters dilated or something, because these contractions were really bad. My husband and I decided to go to the hospital again because I was in way too much pain. We get to the hospital. We don't bring our bags in just because I was like, they're probably gonna send me home. We check ourselves in and we get to triage. On our way up though, I actually threw up. The nurse was like, usually, like, when, you know, like, if you throw up, it's usually an indication that you're like close to giving birth. We get checked into triage and the nurse comes in and she checks to see how dilated I am, and she says that I'm at 3.5, and I was like, oh, because then they were actually thinking of sending me home because they're like, you need to be dilated to like at least 4. So I was like, shoot. So then I asked her, I was like, can I stay 1 more hour to see if anything progresses? And they were like, yeah, sure, like, we can do that. But while I'm waiting, I'm bouncing on medicine balls, doing lunges. Like, I was doing things to try to get things going. And by the time they came back in to check me again, she was putting her gloves on and she was getting ready to check me. And I was just praying the whole time. I was like, please, 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 like, be dilated to at least a 4 or something. She like goes to uncover me and she sees like a little bit of liquid on the bed, and she's like, did you just like pee a little bit? And I was like, no. Then she decided to go get one of those strips to see if I was licking like any amniotic fluid. She takes the strip and the strip turns like a bluish green color, which is an indication that it is amniotic fluid. You guys don't even know how relieved I was. So then the doctor came in and she's like, oh yeah, that's amniotic fluid, like, it looks like your water broke a little bit. So then they told me that I can get checked into the delivery room. So then I get checked in. This is the room that we're in. As you can see. And I currently just, you know, have water and ice chips. There's some, oh, I think these are my ice chips. My water is over there. And my husband goes to grab our bags and stuff, and at this point it started getting so real for me because I'm terrified of childbirth, okay? Because I was just thinking like I'm gonna have to push baby out of my, you know, hoo-ha, or get a C-section. I didn't know what was gonna happen because, you know, anything could obviously happen. Hello. My water broke. She's currently sunny side up right now, so my back is killing me. And so then they asked me if I wanted an epidural, and I initially went in not wanting it just because I wanted to see if I can go for a natural birth. As soon as I felt those contractions, I was like, nope, I cannot do without an epidural. I said yes to the epidural, and it took a few hours for the anesthesiologist to get there. I think we got there like at 11, and then by the time that I got my epidural, I think it was like 3 in the morning or something. And that was another thing that I was terrified about, getting an epidural, because I hear like mixed things about it. But I knew that I would not be able to go through that whole process without any pain medicine. So then I get my epidural. It felt like a little sting. The epidural did not hurt at all. And then I had like that button so you could press the button every 20 minutes if needed. So then all of Thursday, we were just patiently waiting for her. I was not in pain. That epidural definitely helped me. I couldn't feel anything from the waist down. But she didn't end up coming Thursday. So then going into Friday, my contractions are like 3 to 5 minutes apart right now. But they need to be at 2 to 3 minutes apart. So they gave me Pitocin to try to speed up the process. I can't wait to see little mama. I'm super excited. I don't know, I don't look like it's because I'm out of it right now. But soon she will be joining us. Around like 4 o'clock, I started feeling like this pressure down there. I almost felt like I needed to push. So then I called the nurse and I told her like I was getting this pressure down there. So, you know, they were checking me and I was slowly dilating. They didn't want to check me too many times just because you could risk an infection. They checked me on Friday and I believe I was like 9.5 centimeters dilated. And by 5 is when I really felt like she was coming, and I kept telling them like I feel like I need to push. So they checked me by like almost 6 o'clock in the morning. They were like, you're 10 centimeters dilated. The nurse comes in and I start pushing. I actually start feeling contractions. So I started pushing. Let me just say, when you are getting contractions and you're pushing through them, it feels so amazing. Like it releases so much pain. For about 4, almost 5 hours, I was pushing until she made her arrival. I ended up delivering her at 10:20 a.m. When they put her on my chest, I was in shock because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just like did that. I don't know how I forgot to mention this, but she was actually sitting in meconium, which is known as like their very first poop. So it was pretty dangerous for me to go through labor like that long because I was in labor for over 24 hours. But they were checking her heart rate and everything looked normal, so they were like, we just want everything to come naturally. But they did have the NICU team in the room as well because they have to like suck all of the meconium out of her little body. They gave her to my husband, and when I saw that she was in my husband's hand, I was so happy. I was laying there and I was pretty much waiting to deliver the placenta. So I was waiting there, and then 30 minutes had gone by and the doctor was like looking at me very weirdly, and I see her get up and like take her scrubs off, and then she goes somewhere, I don't know where she went, and then she comes back in, puts her scrubs back on, and it looks like she's in a rush. And then she yells to one of the nurses like retained placenta, and I was like, what? Like I don't know what that meant. So I was like, well, what does that even mean? So then she sits down and the nurses kind of like huddle around me, and I'm just waiting there. I think they tried to have me push, but the placenta wasn't coming out. She kept saying retain placenta, and then I think she tried to pull it out. I don't even remember what happened. Pretty much my placenta was not coming out, so she had to do MROP, which is known as manual removal of the placenta. They did have an anesthesiologist that came in, and she actually gave me a dose of fentanyl. So she had to go in, her whole arm was in my stomach, and they had to remove the placenta. So if you don't know what MROP is, it's pretty much they have to manually go in with their hand and remove it. But a retained placenta is when the placenta is attached to the uterine wall and it pretty much will not come out. The whole time that it was happening, I felt like I like literally was not there. I could not believe that this was happening. I didn't know that this could happen. I didn't even know a retained placenta was even a thing. And she was literally like scraping it out. It was the most scariest thing that I have experienced. And she was pulling out pieces of my placenta, and every single time she would come out of my stomach, like I would just see a whole bunch of blood dripping down her arm, and I just started crying because I was so scared and I didn't fully understand what was happening. I was waiting for her to just be done. It felt like I was laying there for hours, and she was ensuring that she had taken everything out. As soon as she was done, I was just shaking uncontrollably. Like, my teeth were literally chattering up against each other and I was freezing cold. One of the nurses actually came over. This nurse was honestly an angel. Like, I feel like if it was not for her, I wouldn't have been able to even get through this. She was the one that was actually helping deliver the baby. Like, so she was an angel. I'm so thankful for her. She actually had to leave. She was off the clock already, but she didn't leave until she knew that my baby and I were okay, which is honestly so freaking sweet. Again, I'm so thankful for her. Yeah, I was just laying there like still in shock, and I had obviously teared, so they had to stitch me up and they had to inject me down there. Please get the shot. The shot did not hurt. I did not feel the shot. The doctor did not ask me if I wanted the shot. She just started going in and sewing me up, and I felt the freaking needle. And so one of the nurses was like, oh, you look like super uncomfortable. And I was like, yeah, like I can feel the needle. And she was like, oh, okay, let's get you the shot. So they ended up injecting me with the shot. I was just laying there bawling my eyes, and one of the nurses brought over a warm blanket for me so that I was more comfortable. And honestly, the whole experience just traumatized me. I thought I was gonna black out just because I felt extremely weak and just dizzy. By the time she was done sewing me up, she was like, oh yeah, so like you had a retained placenta, which is very rare. It does not happen to a lot of people. There was so much blood on the floor, like I could not even believe it. My nurse was like, you need to rest. Your body has gone through a lot. And I just started bawling my eyes, and I told her like, I do not want to close my eyes because I didn't think I was gonna wake up. The nurse that I was telling you guys about earlier, her name is Amanda. She was talking to my husband before she had to leave, and she was just telling him like, she's been through a lot, make sure you take care of her because this was a lot for her. It was super traumatizing. And then she ended up leaving, and then by the time like everything was cleaned up, we like settled into the room. The baby was doing great, and they had to monitor her because she had swallowed meconium, so they had to keep an eye on her. And Saturday night up until Sunday, Amanda, the amazing nurse, she came back because she was on shift, and she was the nurse that was going to be taking care of me from Saturday night to Sunday morning. You know, I don't know, I felt like God, the universe, put her there for a reason. She actually told me a story that I will literally carry with me forever, and I grew so close to her. It literally felt like she was a friend that I've known forever. We were sharing stories with her about our family, and then she was sharing stories about her family, and it was amazing. Like, I honestly love her. They had to do some blood work on me to see how my numbers were looking. I had lost a lot of blood. I don't know how much blood I lost, but I know that it was a lot of blood. They had to do a transfusion on me. It was between a blood transfusion and an iron infusion. I went with the iron transfusion. I actually had to stay in the hospital until Sunday. So on Sunday I got my last transfusion, and they told me that I could actually go home, but I needed to be on iron pills, and they gave me antibiotics. We were discharged Sunday night. My birth was so traumatizing. I'm doing much better now. I feel so much better, and I'm 3 months postpartum. My little girl is doing amazing. But if you are going through something like this, know that it'll be okay, and be easy on yourself. Show yourself grace because your body went through a lot and it is not easy. If you guys have any questions and if you need somebody to talk to, I'm definitely here. But I hope that everybody is doing well, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.